We're going to talk all about how to evict a rent-to-own tenant and some of the complexities that may exist there. All right, guys, the question is, how can you evict a rent-to-own tenant? And I appreciate this question. It's a great one. If you've got a question you'd like to have me answer, type it in the comments below and I will create a video just like this. And for all of my other amazing subscribers, thank you for being a subscriber. If you're not, please consider it. So what is rent-to-own? Let's just break this down right now. One of the ways people can sell properties is they can sell the property to somebody that doesn't have the best of credit, that may be cleaning it up, but wants to buy the property in the future. So what they structure is what's called a rent-to-own scenario. Rent-to-own basically means I have the option or the contract to purchase this property, but I'm currently renting the property, but in 2 years I have the option to purchase that property. I've done several rent-to-own deals, and there's some complexities with it you've got to consider, and there's some ways to protect yourself. One thing is, if the market's appreciating and you did a rent-to-own type deal, you're probably leaving a lot of money on the table. You may be okay with that because lots of rent-to-own deals, the tenant's responsible for all the repairs, major or minor, on the property. The idea with this is you're treating the tenant basically like an owner, saying, I'm not going to do anything to this property. If the roof caves in, you replace the roof. If you don't want to, move out, and then I'll have to deal with it. But part of my contract with you is you're going to do everything, which is pretty attractive, especially for homeowners that may not, or investors that may not want to be dealing with anything. It can be pretty attractive, but if you're leaving equity on the table. So one of the things I like to do when I draft these contracts is say, I'll sell you this property, but I'll sell it to you for appraisal value minus $10,000 or something like that, not to be less than a certain price. That way, if the property goes up in value, I'm getting appreciation. They're also getting a discount because I'm giving them a discount from the appraisal value, and that can be negotiated. The other thing that I like to do is give them some credit. So one of the other reasons why investors like to do rent-to-owns is they get to rent it for more money than what the typical rents are, and they put more money in their pocket that way. So let's say rents are $1,500, maybe I rent it to them for $2,000, but I'll apply $500 a month of that $2,000 to their purchase price from me, so I can lower the purchase price. So if they make all their payments at $6,000 a year, $12,000 for 2 years, they get an additional $12,000. So now they're getting $22,000 off the appraisal value. Not a bad little deal. In return for me, I'm not having to deal with any of the repairs on the property because they're responsible for all repairs, major or minor. The downside to this whole strategy for me is basically, if you're looking for cash flow and you keep selling your cash flow, you have to keep replacing it. Meaning you're going to have to keep finding new deals that you can do lease-to-owns on and new tenants that want to become lease-to-own lenders or borrowers with that type of a scenario. So you have to keep replacing your inventory. The other experience I've had, most lease-to-owns, they never end up owning the property because they can't qualify, because a lot of people that get themselves into trouble, it's a habit, and a lot of people don't change those habits, and they end up 2 years from now being in the same situation. Now that could be good or bad, because if you as an investor, you could say, well, your option to buy is over, but we could try it again for another 2 years, but you're not going to apply anything for the last 2 years towards the purchase. You'll just apply new 2 years worth towards the purchase, and so you've made some more rent on the property than you otherwise would have. So it's all about strategy and what you want to do here. It's a great thing. I did a lot of this when I was getting started. Something you should really consider. But this really becomes the question. How do you evict a rent-to-own tenant? It comes down to your contract. So I like to give people a rental agreement and also give them an option contract. So the rental agreement is separate than the option contract, but if they're not performing on the rental agreement, then their option contract is void. It's basically how it's done. And you're going to want to talk to an attorney about this. I'm not an attorney or anything else. So you're going to want to chat with your attorney on that. But the concept basically is if they're not making the payments on their rental agreement, they no longer have an option agreement. So if that's the case, then you can evict them just like you would any other tenant, and you would go through a standard eviction process. Every eviction process is different depending upon the state. Some states are landlord friendly, some states are really tenant friendly, and so you want to be careful where you're making these investments, and primarily be in landlord friendly states, because if you have to go through that eviction process, it can be a bear. You're going to want to be really careful how you draft these contracts, because you don't want them to have any type of ownership type idea. It's got to be very separate. There's a lease agreement and there's an option contract, tying those together only simply if the payments aren't being made on time. So it's really important to realize. Now, if you're enjoying this video to this point, please hit that thumbs up button, and also if you'd hit the subscribe button, it would mean a lot to me and really help this channel grow. So the question really is why do rent-to-owns, why are they so popular? I would say they're popular for people because lots of people have pride of ownership. For tenants, they want to have pride of ownership. Most people that I've done a lease to own for, they tell the neighbors they own the property. And I don't really care that they do that. They don't own the property, but they want people to think they own the property. They want to put down roots. They want their family to be there. Those types of things, which really gives them a pride of ownership, which really makes a lot of sense if they're the ones up there fixing the shingles and they're the ones plowing the snow and mowing the grass and they're taking complete control of the property, you know, doing the repairs on the property and things necessary. They really feel this pride of ownership, and people want to have a place they can call their own. So a lease option gives somebody that doesn't have the ability to have those things the ability to have them just through a different means, with this idea of buying it in the future. And it's really popular for landlords, or popular for investors for some of those reasons we talked about. Higher rents, you can still capture some of the appreciation. What I don't like about it, again, is if you lock in a price, which most people do, we'll sell this property for $150,000 in 2 years. If the property's double, they take the advantage of that and you get nothing of that. So I want to give some advantage to them, but I don't want to give away everything, which is one of the things you've got to be very careful when you're dealing with a rent-to-own type situation. So if you're interested in real estate investing, you should check us out at dohardmoney.com. We have software, tools, tips, training, and funding for real estate investors. I've also got a book that I sell, Barnes & Noble and those things. I'll give it away completely for free. It's called How to Get More Money You Can Never Handle. Shoot me over a text to 435-294-0433, 435-294-0433. Just text me over your email address and I'll send you a copy of that. I've also got a blog you should check out, which is long-term versus short-term rentals. It talks about the differences in both of those. I'll put in the comments below. I also have a video about rental property reserves. I'm going to link it on the screen here so you can take a look at that. You're going to want to watch that if you are considering these rent-own tenants. But this whole concept of evicting them is the same process that you would evict anybody else. You've got to serve them with notice, you've got to put on the property, but in most cases, if you're an LLC owning the property, you've got to use an attorney to do that. I recommend that you find an attorney that specializes in evictions, and the best way to do that is to find your apartment association or your landlord association for your area or your state. Some eviction attorneys hang out there or advertise there or pay for space, and you can get in touch or just call them and say who's some good eviction attorneys. This attorney just specializes in evictions. With that, you can call them. They usually have a flat fee for eviction where you say, hey, it's this much, as long as it's a non-contested eviction. A non-contested means that the person that's your renter doesn't show up and contest it. If it turns into a contested, they usually charge you an hourly rate for those things that are contested, and then you agree upon that hourly rate up front. So having a great attorney takes care of all this. The same thing holds true with your contract. So if you're using a rental contract and an option contract, I highly recommend you call the eviction attorney up front, because he knows all the problems and he knows how the tenants try and get out of them. So there's nobody more qualified to look over your rent and your option contract than this eviction attorney. I recommend you find them through the Landlord Association or the Apartment Association. Those are associations that help protect landlords' rights. They're typically nonprofit associations, and those things are where landlords come together or apartment communities come together, where they are getting vendors and talking and discussing and helping protect the rights with the cities that they are in. So I hope you found this very, very helpful. If so, hit that thumbs up button. Consider subscribing. Check us out over at dohardmoney.com if you want help with any of this stuff. Otherwise, make it a very profitable day, and bye for now.